Get my tea.
So,
Okay.
so we can start with watching the breath for a few moments as usual. Then we can try to generate good intention, motivation by thinking us coming here together, listening, asking questions and answer, discussions, reflection, contemplation. May due to all of that, may all this become cause and conditions to be able to keep our both of the vows unstained, unpolluted. And by keeping the vows unstained and pure, may we be able to cultivate and fully increase and improve the Bodhisattva mind. And Bodhisattva mind that is supported by the wisdom, may we be able to enter the Bodhisattva path, 5 paths and bhumis, and be benefit to sentient beings, more and more benefit as we become more and more enlightened on the path. And ultimately, may we be able to actualize fully awakened state. So we can be greatest help, benefit to each and every sentient beings equally. Okay. To the founder, the endowed, transcended, destroyer, the one gone beyond, the four destroyer, the completely perfect, fully awakened being, perfect in knowledge and in good conduct, Sugata, Lord of the world, supreme guide of human beings to be tamed, teacher of God and human beings, to you, the complete and fully awakened one, the endowed, transcended, destroyer, the glorious conqueror, the subduer from the Shakya clan, I prostrate, make offering, and go for it. To the founder, the endowed, transcendent destroyer, the one gone beyond, the four destroyer, the completely perfect, fully awakened being, perfect in knowledge and in good conduct. Sugata, Lord of the world, supreme guide of human beings to be tamed, teacher of God, the human beings to you, completely fully awakened one, the endowed, transcendent destroyer, the glorious conqueror, the subduer from the Shakya clan, I prostrate, make offering, and go for it. The founder, the endowed, transcendent destroyer, the one gone beyond the four destroyer, completely perfect, a fully awakened being, perfect in knowledge and in good conduct, Sugata, Lord of the world, supreme guide of human beings to be tamed, teacher of God, human beings to you, the completely and fully awakened one, the endowed, transcendent destroyer, the glorious conqueror, the subduer from the Shakya clan, I prostrate, make offering, and go for it. 사시베게 조심해도 다리라리시 인데게 반대 상계신도 미대우와이 로근 나마다신 주바쇼예담 구루라나 만달라가니야타야미. I go for refuge until I am enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the merits I create through listening to the Dhamma, may I become a Buddha in order to benefit all sentient. Sangye chodam soke sonam la changchu padu daneke dagi shoshe be sonam dola penche sangye duba Sangye chodam soke sonam la changchu padu daneke dagi shoshe be sonam dola penche sangye duba. So, welcome back, and today is the last class of the, before we start again in June, and we have been going through the 18 root Bodhisattva vows, and again as the Bodhisattva vows are tools that help us to keep our Bodhisattva mind, to cultivate and to keep them from deteriorating, and help us to increase and improve those Bodhisattva minds. And so, so therefore, the more pure, unpolluted we are able to keep, the more it helps to maintain our Bodhisattva mind and increase the Bodhisattva mind. So we finish up to the vows 14, and we have last 4 vows. So proclaiming the false realizations of voidness. So again, telling lie is a big lie. Like when we take the lay vows, the lying, and that lying is the big lie. So big lie is lying about spiritual realizations. Even when you don't have spiritual realizations, you lie about your spiritual realizations, And the motivation is afflicted emotions, one of the, apart from the jealous, one of the other afflicted emotions, the reason to lie is due to one of the afflicted emotions. And the lie is not just an ordinary lie, it is a spiritual lie about your spiritual realizations. So even you don't have realizations of wisdom realizing emptiness, then lying to someone who can understand, another being who understand your lie and who believe your lie, and so and again, in terms of whether you say, I have direct realizations of emptiness, even when you don't have, or sometimes you might kind of lie, it may not directly but indirectly, so here proclaiming false realizations of voidness. although you have not understood emptiness, although one have no realization of emptiness, teaching others, if you meditate on this, you will be like me. And so indicating that you have a realization of emptiness. You will be like me here is indicating, that if you meditate, then you will have realization in emptiness, just like I have, so that is what it means. And you will understand the emptiness directly, and then you will have a direct realization of the emptiness, just like me, so it's indicating that you have realization of emptiness when you don't, so that is big lie. And if we have taken lay vows, also you break the lay vows, because you break one of the root lay vows. That's the lying, the big lie. Of course, even when we lie, any kind of lying, even though lying is still diluting our vows, but at least it doesn't break it doesn't have a breaking or defect of the root breaking of vow. When we have this big lie, the spiritual lie, then that is when we break from the very root. This cheat others through pretensions. If the other person believes you have realized emptiness, is transgressions. So it has to be someone who understands your lie, and then they think, they believe what you said, then they think you have realizations when you don't. Here it says the realization of emptiness, but like in the root vows, it doesn't have to be about emptiness. It can be any spiritual realization, lying about any spiritual realizations. So here I didn't see any kind of clarity on that, whether this lie has to be only about emptiness, or can it be, to break this vow, can it be lying about any spiritual realization, lying about both, having cultivated both the mind or realization when you do not have, for example. Definitely in terms of the lay vows, and of course also the monks, nuns, Pratamosha vows, in terms of the Pratamosha vow, not lying. So that lying is about any spiritual realizations. So it might here also be same, even though here it says about voidness or emptiness. And then 16, accepting as a gift material has been stolen or embezzled from 3 jewels or from bhikshus, from a bhikshus. So again, someone offering a gift, whatever material gift that might they offer, and the gift that has been stolen, not only stolen, but stolen from, that is being offered to 3 jewels, Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha, And of course, when we say Sangha, either is Arya Sangha, so that can be one individual, or community Sangha, that is a collection of 4 bhikshus, so that, and then, or from a bhikshu means here, someone who is fully ordained, just one person, so who might not be Arya, neither is a collection of 4 of them, so it doesn't become part of that Sangha, but even from one individual, something which has been offered to one individual fully ordained beings, so kind of, so it has to be stolen, from that object, 3 jewels or the bhikshu. And then that stolen or embezzled objects or the gift has been offered to you and you accept it, even though you know it has been stolen or embezzled. So if you do that, then you transgress the vows, you know. So earlier there is one vows that you yourself misusing and stealing from the three jewels. Here is a different, someone who stole from the three jewels and then offer to you, accepting that offering, even though you know it has been stolen or even though it has been embezzled, you know. I guess even from the ordinary law, isn't that same? When someone is stolen and you accept them by knowingly, you know, you could be punished for that. If you accept it without knowing it, then of course it is different. But if you knowingly that you do that, so anyway, that is the breaking of the vows here. Because, you know, again, it encourage, by doing that, you encourage that person. Yes, Eloise?
Okay, so my grandfather went to China in the 50s. And right at the end of the 50s, maybe early 60s, 61, something like that. And he bought in a store some small statues that are clearly Tibetan and were clearly stolen out of a monastery. And of course, he didn't, well, anyway. So when he died, apparently these statues got moved into my father's office. And my father didn't even know they were there. But I was sitting in my father's office one day and I looked up and I saw these three small, you know, clearly real statues. And I said, where did those come from? And he didn't even know. So we just assumed that my grandfather bought them when he was in China in the very early 60s. So I took them and had them reconsecrated. In fact, maybe you did, but maybe not. I can't remember. Had them reconsecrated and I have them. I have never felt like that was breaking the vow, but am I wrong?
First of all, you don't know whether he bought it by paying. I mean, someone could have sold in the China, just like the statue are being sold from Nepal to India, all part of the world. It could be sold any part of the world. So it could be legal, it could be illegal. You don't know. We don't know. And I don't know whether even your grandfather knows or not, maybe, you know. So I don't think that will be the cases here, you know. That will be the cases here.
Yeah, that's so true. It never occurred to me that it might have just been that it might have been legitimately been sold by a Tibetan, you know, maker of statues to China to be sold. I mean, it never occurred to me that it could have been legitimate. I always figured that it was, you know, the Chinese, when they were raiding, had stolen them. But
it could be from Tibet or it could be from Nepal. You know, Nepal is
very Tibetan, but
Nepal is a lot of the statues that actually are in Tibet, actually they are made in Nepal.
Well,
even at the very beginning, when they first established the first the Cho temple, you know, the one of the most holiest temple for the Tibetans, Cho temple, that was the first, and the architectures of that was actually from Nepal. And many of the craftsmen were from Nepal. So their craftships were known both in Nepal, in Tibet as well as in China. that craft, he also went in China and built some others. So that was in like 7th centuries, And even now in Tibet, most of the statues actually Tibet, they take from Nepal. They order from Nepal.
Yeah.
So it could have been from any places, it could have been from Tibet, it could have been from Nepal. And within the Tibet, there are many shops that sells, and just like in Nepal as well. So yeah, so
Thank you.
That is kind of unknown.
Yeah.
But by knowingly, if you know for sure that it has been stolen, and by doing that, then you encourage them, encourage them to create more negative karma, encourage them to steal more others, embezzle others more, encouraging them to create negative karma, and also hurting indirectly to the three jewels, because something that has been offered has been taken away. So yeah, so that is and then next one is 17, taking material from someone who is meditating on karma abiding and giving to someone who merely recite text. So in Lama Tsongkhava's commentary, within this vow, there seems to be two different kind. One is, like someone who is meditating on karma abiding or special insight, and then you kind of discourage them from meditating on that, and therefore they lose their inspirations to meditate and practice. Or you kind of encourage or somehow encourage them to increase their delusions, increase their delusions. So instead of encouraging them to reduce the delusion, you encourage them to have more delusions. Instead of encouraging them to meditate on karma abiding and special insight, you somehow discourage, and therefore, they lose their inspiration to that. So that is one. And then second one is, as it mentioned here, someone who is sincerely meditating, sincerely practicing, sincerely meditating and practicing, again, the object here is a bhikshu, who is a bhikshu, fully ordained, who is sincerely meditating or sincerely practicing, and then taking that, the material that belong to that, stealing or taking by force, that is not given to you. That is not given to you. You take forcefully or steal it, indirectly from that practitioner, and then you give that to someone who is not sincerely practitioner, who is here, as it says, someone who merely recite text, meaning, who is not just a sincerely practitioner, merely reciting text. So is not a sincerely practitioner. And the motivation here is to hurt and harm the true sincere practitioner. So the motivation has to be, again, that kind of the wish to hurt and harm. So the motivation to wish to hurt and harm, and then kind of stealing or taking by force whatever objects from them that is not given to you, you take forcefully or steal it, and then give it to someone who is not a sensitive practitioner. And so then if you do that, then it is a transgression. And the reason here is that such action may cause the meditator to abandon his or her practice, So if you do that, then if the resource of that practitioner, if you take away the resource of the practitioner, then the practitioner, sincere practitioner, due to lack of that resource, then they might give up their practice. They might give up their practice because they don't have a resource to practice, because you kind of stole or took it by forcefully, and then it's a transgression, and also is a big negative karma. First of all, we all know it's not easy to be a sincere practitioner, how difficult it is to be a true sincere practitioner and who commit and dedicate for their meditation and practice. So we should always encourage them, not discourage them. It's through our such actions, then it can be, discouraging, and then they give up, abandon, and then if that happens, then it is transgressions. And then 18, abandoning the bodhicitta by thinking I cannot help sentient beings, or I do not want to help these particular sentient beings. So of course, when we take the vows, first we generate the bodhicitta mind, and then on the basis of that aspiring bodhicitta mind, and then we take the vows, aspiring, wishing precept and engaging both sort of vows. So the bodhicitta is very root of all these vows. So when you give up the bodhicitta mind, when you abandon or give up the bodhicitta mind, then it the very root of everything is kind of collapse. And the way we give up the bodhicitta mind, the way we abandon the bodhicitta mind, is when we say I cannot, we make a strong kind of determinations that I will not help sentient beings. It's not that not being able to help sentient beings, but you make a decision that you will not help sentient beings because you are irritated, because you are very upset, whatever, maybe due to someone mischief behavior, that upset you, that make you very kind of discouraged, and then you make a decision, I will not benefit and help sentient beings. That kind of making strong kind of wish or determination, then you give up bodhicitta mind. All sentient beings, not only all sentient beings, even one sentient beings. Even with one sentient being, if you make a strong, determination that I will never help that persons in the futures. I will never help that persons, I will not, I do not want, or I will not help that sentient beings, that particular sentient being in the future. Then also by doing that, you are also breaking the, again, bodhicitta. And by breaking the bodhicitta or abandoning it, then there's the transgressions. It's a different, sometimes, for example, in a certain moment, maybe, you might not be able to help. And in one moment, you might be agitated, and, you might think, I'm not going to help these persons. But that you might not think that I'm going to not help this sentient being forever, So that is a slightly different, So even though that one I don't see in Lama Tsongkhapa's commentary, but I saw somewhere, I don't recollect in what commentary where I saw, that you need to have that kind of strong decisions that I will kind of never help them. I will never help them in the future, them or individual, So if you make that kind of decision, strong decision, then you break the boat, you break and abandon the Bodhisattva mind, and then that happens transgressions. So next one, the 4 conditions. In order to have transgressions of those vows, the 4 conditions need to come together. Even though if the 4 conditions are not there, then you would not have the transgressions. We can have pollute the vows, but not the transgressions. And there are only 2 vows that doesn't need those 4 conditions. That is the 18, when you give out the Bodhisattva mind, and the 9th, that's when you have the wrong view. I think it's 9th. Cultivating wrong view, 9. So when you have those 2, wrong view and giving up the Bodhisattva mind, then immediately, just by having a wrong view, just by giving up the Bodhisattva mind, you have transgressions. You don't need the 4 conditions. Immediately you have the transgressions. But rest of the other 16 vows, then in order to have transgression, then not only that, then you need to have 4 conditions. If the 4 conditions are not there, then you don't have the transgressions, the downfall of the root vows. So then here are the transgressions, even it says here, except for the vows 9, that is the wrong view, cultivating wrong view, and adding, giving up the abandoning and giving bodhicitta. 4 conditions are required to completely transgress the major vows, the root vows, in which cases you will need to take vows again in order to restore them. And if we have, completely transgressions, if you are complete transgressions, then you need to restore it. You need to restore it by retaking the Bodhisattva vows. If you have not complete transgressions, then you can purify. You can do purification through 4 open-end powers. So you can do purification through 4 open-end powers, and then that can be purified. But if you have complete transgressions, then you need to renew and restore it by retaking it, the vows. And if there is a teacher, master who offers that, it's great to take from them. But if there is no, you can retake by yourself in front of your holy objects on top of the altar, So in front of the statues or your altar, you can retake and restore them. So that is one of the special of the Bodhisattva vows, Other vows, you cannot do by yourself. And so what are the 4 conditions? So then you fail to regard the actions as a wrong, So when you break any of those vows, when you break any of the vows, when you realize, it's wrong, I broke my vows, it's a mistake, it's wrong, just by having that thought, then you don't have complete transgressions. When you are aware and when you acknowledge, when you accept that was mistake, that was wrong, that breaking of that vows or engaging in that particular actions is wrong, that when you are aware, when you accept that, then you don't have full transgressions, or that you are breaking the vows, but you do not care, So when you know you are breaking vows, but you become careless, then again, if that happens, you have complete transgressions. But if you know you are breaking vows, but you don't become careless. You don't become careless. You think, oh, I made a mistake. Oh, I shouldn't have done that. Oh, I broke it. So there's sense of, sense of cherishing for the vows, for the practice, for the actions, But when you don't have, then when you become careless, then that is when you have. Because you lack faith in karma, you think that doing negative actions or breaking vows does not matter, And the reason why you become careless, one of the reason why we become careless, is because not understanding the karma fully or profoundly, If we understand the way the karma works, deeply and profoundly, then we will not be so careless, we will be much more attentive, mindful, aware. Due to the ignorance, you may not think the action is negative, and so you act contrary to the vows, And sometimes due to the ignorance, sometimes it's due to the ignorance, because you don't know what the vows are. You don't know what it means when you break the vows. So that is why studying is important. So you know what are the vows, what are those root vows, what does it mean transgression, how do we break them, what if we do what we break them, if we break them, what to do and how to maintain without breaking them, and if we do break them, how to restore them, how to purify them, all of knowing that. But if we don't study, then we have ignorant about the vows. Even if we took the vows, we might be ignorant about the vows. So therefore, again, due to that, we can be kind of, we can act contrary to the vows, The reason is due to the ignorance, because you don't know that you are going against the vows. Recognizing that actions in negative make the transgression incomplete. So that is the way it is, So when you recognize, when you engage in any of those breaking of any of those 16 vows, any of those 16 vows, when you recognize, when you are aware and recognize, they are negative, they are mistake, that you are breaking a vows which you don't feel good about it, So when that happens, then even you have engaged into the actions, it doesn't become complete transgressions. It doesn't become complete transgression. It becomes incomplete transgressions. So then second, not abandon the thought to do actions again, So this one is when you break the vows, any of those 16 vows, or engage in any action that break the vows, instead of by understanding you are breaking the vows and it's negative and mistake, and then not to engage into the future, but instead, you kind of embrace it, you embrace it. And so if you embrace it, then again, it become a complete transgressions. But if you do not embrace it, you understand it's negative and mistake and so you make a thoughts not to engage in in the futures, then that make it incomplete transgressions. So here, if you do not regret the actions and generate the wish to avoid in the futures, then that will lead to transgressions. But if you have regret and you generate the wish to not to engage in such actions in the future, then it becomes incomplete transgressions. Or if you have the wish to do it again, so it is kind of embracing, not only you engage into that action now, but then you still want to do engage in that actions in the future. So it is kind of embraced, if you do that, then this contribute to the complete transgression. If you wish to never commit such action ever again, then transgression incomplete, So then that make transgression incomplete. So that is why regret is important. Regret is important. Recognizing aware negative as negative, recognizing being aware mistake as mistake, recognizing and being aware, breaking vows as a breaking vows, through that. And then when you do that, then it lead to incomplete transgressions. And then on top of that, then again, if you have a regret, and if you have a regret again about those actions, also it make incomplete. But if you don't have a regret, instead, you feel there's nothing wrong with that, and you want to engage in some such same behavior actions, then that make the actions complete transgressions of the both of the vows. Rejoicing and admiring yourself for having done the actions. For that is, here it says, one, rejoicing in your actions, your actions of breaking the vows, that actions that break the vows. So rejoicing in, if you rejoice in that, and admiring for that action from the depth of your heart, admiring for that kind of actions, behavior from the depth of your heart, and rejoicing to your actions. If you do that, then again, it lead to complete transgressions. But if you don't rejoice and have the admiration, you don't rejoice the actions, and if you don't have admiration from the depth of your heart, then it make it incomplete. So that is, if you break the first vow and think, so first vow, any of the 16 vows, apart from the 9 and 18, how good it was that I could show of my good qualities. If you feel upset or regret the action, transgression incomplete, So, but mainly, rejoicing in your own such actions that lead to transgressions, and being admiring for such actions, such behavior from your heart. So if you do that, then it may complete transgression. And instead, if you don't rejoice, instead you regret it. Instead of admiring, you see it as something not helpful, beneficial, and then, it make the transgression incomplete. Your actions of engaging in any of those 16 vows, breaking of the vows, that make the transgression incomplete. Having no shame and consideration for others, so again, I don't know. Okay. In the Buddhism, in the Buddhist psychologists, the mind, study of the mind, shame and considerations are regarded as a virtues. Okay. And I don't know, again, whether, even though we use the shame, I don't know whether exactly the way we use normal, it might not be the same way to use in them, but in Tibetan, it is mochasheba, having a shame is a virtues. Having a considerations is a virtues. The shameful mind is a virtues. The consideration mind is the virtues. So the difference between that is, the shame is that, you restrain from engaging in any kind of non-virtuous actions by understanding. If I engage in that, that, by understanding, that it will definitely, it will I will be creating negative karma, and experience consequences of such negative karma, suffering in the future through that understanding. Or, through understanding, if I engage in such actions, how can I engage? I'm supposed to be a Buddha's follower. I'm a follower of the Buddha. How can I do that? It goes against the very practice, very principle of that. I am a Buddhist practitioner. I'm a Mahanist practitioner. I'm a monk. I'm a nun. Or I'm a lay practitioner who have taken vows. How could I engage into that? By that kind of reasoning, and that through that kind of a reasoning by thinking from your side, then that is you restrain from that, you refrain from doing that. So that is because of the shame that you restrain and refrain from doing that. Consideration is because of the others, by thinking on others. If I engage into that, it will hurt others, it will harm others, it will hurt the Dharma, it will bring a bad reputation to the Dharma, it will bring a bad reputation to my teachers, it will bring a bad reputations to Sangha members, it will bring a bad reputation. So, you stop engaging in such any of those unhealthy, non-virtuous actions by being consideration of others, that it will bring, hurt and harm and damage to, our families, our friends, our Sangha members, our teachers, and so forth. So that is considerations. If you do not care about the consequences of action for yourself, so shame is, being aware of consequences of your action for yourself. Okay, that is what it is. Shame is being here, being careful, and not having shame is you do not care about the consequences of action for yourself. Okay. On the other hand, the shame is that you are careful and aware of the consequences of action for yourself or for others. And considerations is that you are being aware and careful of the consequences of your action towards others. How your action can hurt and harm and bring hurt and harm, damage to others. So that is considerations. And through that kind of considerations and shame, then you restrain from engaging. So if you have the shame and considerations, then again, even you engage into one of those actions, one of those 16 actions, then again, it makes the transgression incomplete. But if you don't have shame and considerations, then it may come the action complete, So that is where you are careless in karma. You do not feel the action has anything to do with your karma. So I think with that, we kind of complete the 18 root vows. And as I mentioned before, if we have broken the root vows, then we can always retake and restore ourselves, And there are many different verses to doing that. And I think again in this booklet there is one there's one to restore within this booklet. Quite short one. But then there are some which are more, here, page number 21, end of the 46 vows, secondary vows. Then there's a verse for restoring the Bodhisattva vows. So that is, you can use that. So you can see there, page number 21. And so again, you can make 3 prostrations to the altar, and then, You can try to generate good refuge and bodhicitta motivations. You recite refuge and bodhicitta motivations. You visualize all the Buddhas and all the bodhisattvas in the space, and you do the refuge and bodhicitta. And when you have time, you can do the 4 immeasurable, short, long one, short one. You can do the 7 limb practice, long, short ones, medium, short, and then you do these restorations of the vows. And you imagine you are repeating after the Buddha, Buddha is giving the vows, and then you are repeating after that, and then you repeat 3 times. At the end of the 3rd repetitions, then you imagine, you think, you visualize that your vows have been fully restored to its purity. Your vows has been fully restored. And so to have that is important. That is the important, the 3rd repetition. So again, when you repeat, you can imagine, visualize you are repeating after the Buddhas. And then at the end of the 3rd, then that is where you visualize and imagine and think your vows, the Bodhisattva vows, and fully restore and increase and improve. So that is, and then you can do the dedications, you can do short dedications, long dedications, at the end of that. Also, you can do, normally there's 2 verses from the Shantidevas, rejoicing. Once you have restored the vows, then you can rejoice, as Shantideva explained, as though, a poor person finding a gold in a garbage, how much happy that person will be, someone, a very poor person who doesn't have any resource, and then in the garbage he or she find diamond or the gold, and how much happy he would be. In the same way, we try to generate joyfulness and rejoice for having restored and renewed the vows, and then you can do the dedications. Okay, so I think that is more or less with the root vows. So I think that is all. Any questions?
Geshe-la, I have a question, please.
Yes, please.
Actually, I have 2. The prayer that we're supposed to be reciting 3 times in the morning and 3 times in the evening, is that the verse to restore the Bodhisattva vows? Or is it the one on the next page by His Holiness Dalai Lama, prayer to generate bodhicitta?
No, this where it says the verses to restore both of the vows.
That's the 3 times in the morning and 3 times in the evening.
If you can do, you can restore twice a way, that is good, but if not, you can do once, of course, you can do that whenever you feel that you have broken the vows, you restore that. Mm-hmm. But we can restore that every day, His Holiness says that he do the restoring every day. And if someone like His Holiness does every day, of course, there's no doubt we need to do that, So if we can do every day, that would be great. So you can do in the morning, So, but there is nothing wrong if you do evening and morning, you know, it's even better. But
Okay.
at least we try to restore whenever we notice when we are breaking a vows. And even not, then if we can do every day, because sometimes even we are broken a vows, we might not be aware of it, you know, due to lack of mindfulness. And so we might not be aware of. So therefore, restoring every day is a good. So,
Okay.
Yeah.
But there's not another one, right? That's the one that we're supposed to be doing.
From here, there are many verses in terms of restoring the, you know, some of them, like sometimes when he's holding it, it depends on, you know, there are many verses, you know, some of them, you know, it is many hours. It can take many hours.
No.
So like His Holiness give that once a while, you know, that is according to the Asanga's Changsa, the Bodhisattva's Bhumi. From that, then it is a very long ceremony, and it's to giving, taking and restoring it. And then there are others, you know, who are much more longer versions, and there are short versions. This is one of the very short versions, you know, the one here we have is one of the very shortest versions, you know. When you do the longer, then, you know, there is first you take the refuge vows, then you do the wishing Bodhisattva vows, and then you take the engaging Bodhisattva vows, you know. So there is this one, you know, you do. So if you do that, then it's a much more longer ceremony. It's much longer. So you can use that too, you know.
Okay.
So it doesn't matter which verses you use it, as long as you restore and do in a correct way, in the right way. In terms of the verses, some of them are very long, some of them medium, some of them short. And so that one here, we have one short one. I'm sure that it has been given by because it's coming in the FMD, I'm sure it's been approved and advised by Rinpoche to use this version, you know. And so, yeah.
Okay, thank you. And then my other question is on the 4 conditions. You have to have all 4 of those, right? To transgress the vow, not just one.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. To transgress completely, then you need to have all the 4 conditions.
All 4 of them. Okay, thank you, Geshe-la.
If one condition is missing, then you don't have complete transgressions. Yeah.
Okay.
Is it better to hear another questions? Thank you, Geshe-la. Is it better to use the verses in Lama Chopa? I don't know, you know, I can't say this is better or that's better, you know. As I mentioned, there are many, many different versions, and individually, it is not like something's better than others, but it's just, you know, how much time you have, what do you feel more, how you feel more connected with that particular verses than others, you know, so it depends on that. So, yeah. Any other questions, comments? So today is our last day. So if you have any questions, whether it's about today's class, or it could be related to other Dharma practice as well. Could you please share advice on the 46 branches? I don't know, share advice, what is, I mean, you need to study, and in booklet it is there, and you try to study, you know, and in booklet, you know, the commentary it is not just the vows, the commentary is there, you know, commentary has been added there, you know. Sometimes if you read other commentary, there might be a little bit more than what is here, and a little bit more clarity in others than what is here. But it is not just the vows, all the explanation or commentary is already given that. So again, it is just, you have to study and be familiar with that, you know, study and familiar with that. And yes.
Geshe-la, what is the booklet that you're referring to? Can you show it to us?
John, did you share from the FMT booklet? I think John might have shared or sent it before.
Yeah, a week or two ago, I sent it with the Big Love newsletter, but I'm gonna find it again and see if I can figure out a way to put it in the chat box so you guys can look at it. So let me spend a little time doing that.
Okay, thank you.
It is called Bodhisattva Vows by FMT.
Okay.
And they have a booklet, but this is in PDF form. And so, yeah, it's just called Bodhisattva Vows. And then the content, Bodhisattva Vows, verse for restoring Bodhisattva Vows, prayer for generating Bodhicitta. So these are the three main content. And then it starts with wishing Bodhicitta vows or precepts, and then engage in Bodhisattva vows. And within that, root vows and 46 secondary vows are there. Yeah. There's one question. Are you going to see Lama Soba when you go to Nepal, and does Lama Soba ever come to New Mexico? He came to New Mexico, many times over the years. He came a lot more when the international office used to be in Taos. So that was in early 2000s. And so he was, and then in recent time, he was in Santa Fe, I think 3-4 years ago. And we have invited him, and he has, in the past, he have accepted to come, and he said he would be happy to come, and I mean, because of the pandemic, now he's not traveling, that is the thing. Otherwise, when the Santa Fe centers open, we would kind of like him to open it, in more, even though maybe we might do a small opening before, but the main opening of that, maybe we would like to invite him. So, but with the pandemic, it's hard to know, so, and I hope to be able to see him. Normally, if he's there, I will see him, I know he's still there. So I know Lama Soba is still in Nepal, still in Kopan. So if he's, and I don't think there is a travel at the moment. So definitely I will be able to see him and pay respect and give little update on how you all are doing, how you all are being naughty. I can update him, all the students in the New Mexico are being naughty. I will tell him that he should send some instructions to be more better. No, I was joking. So, but I will update him. Normally, I will update him about the Santa Fe and Taos, both centers. Yeah, so. Yeah, not sure how I understand shame is considered virtues. Shame is considered virtues because of the shame, you don't engage in negative actions. Because of your shameful actions, that stop you from doing something harmful, hurtful, something unethical, something non-virtuous, engage in non-virtuous actions. And from that perspective, it is when you have shame, because of that shameful mind, you don't engage in all that. And from that perspective, it's a virtue, If you don't have that shameful mind or shameful attitude, then, we might engage in something unethical, unmoral behavior, actions. We can engage in something hurtful and harmful actions. We can engage in something unwholesome, negative actions, So In that way, shameful mind is the one that protect us and others, you know. It is not saying that shaming others is the virtues, okay? We have to understand those two different things, you know. Shaming others is not virtues. What he's saying is your own shameful mind, shameful attitude is the virtues, because it helps you protect from all this unethical and unvirtuous behavior and actions. So that is virtues, your own. But shaming someone is not a virtues, you know.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Okay. Any others before we do the dedications?
I have a question.
Yes, please.
I've been thinking a lot and been wanting to ask you this question about the bardo and taking a human rebirth versus the pure, being reborn in a pure land. So somebody who's at that level who could choose, you die and you go to the bardo. And how do you end up in the pure land? Is it a birth or?
The way it is described in the pure land, to go to pure land, I don't know whether you have to go to the pardo.
Oh.
And you have birth from the, you know, normally they describe birth from the lotus, you know. You don't have birth like human rebirth or animal birth, you know. It's self-arising from the lotus, you know. So normally that is how it's described in some of the sutras and teachings on the pure land. And you don't have to have the pardo all the time. If someone is dying from not only pure land, if someone dies and is going to take rebirth in the formless God realms, then there's no pardo, you know, it goes straight. There's no pardo if it's a formless God realms. So
Okay.
But normally others, then you go through the pardo. Yeah.
And when you're in a pure land, you're there forever?
You can, you know, if you want to come down, you can come down, you know, to see us, those poor, all the poor us who are still left in the samsara. You want to say hi, saying how you are doing, you know, you are poor, pity, you all are sitting in samsara, you know, so you can come and say hi to us. No, they can come, you know, they can come. You know, the bodhisattvas, you know, once they train then and then they go to the impure samsara and realms to benefit and help others as well. So it is not like, but like you don't have to take like other ordinary karmic rebirth, you know.
Okay.
Like that.
Okay.
But
thank you.
So you can achieve enlightenment in that pure land.
Okay.
But the bodhisattvas, you know, they will come. They will not just remain in the pure land all the time, you know. They will come to the realm where there's more suffering, where they can be helpful. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yes, please. You have to unmute, Lara.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm very, very happy that I'm here this evening to see you. And I'm wishing you, of course, all the very, very best in the world for your trip. I am sad to be saying goodbye. And, you know, I'm kind of wondering about it. Is it, you know, I mean, this is really hard to say goodbye to you. I feel like I want to cry, and I feel like I want to, I don't know, jump in my car or drive to Santa Fe or something. And I was just wondering, what is while you're gone, are there ways that I can connect with you. You know, I never want to bother you. So I have a hesitancy to email you, but you know, I want, I like, can we make an idea that like every Sunday at noon, we'll all think of you and send the best teachings in our brains that we can to you? Or is there anything we can do?
Well, you know, the best way when I'm traveling is the email. You know, if you that is the best. I think probably best way is the email. So yeah, if there's questions, if there's something, then definitely, you know, you can email. Sometimes it might take a little time to reply, depending on what I'm doing, how busy, and all of that. And sometimes I might be able to reply quickly. And so that is. And again, you know, while I'm not here, I'm sure that the class, there will be still class, and I think continue to attend the classes. And, you know, it doesn't matter who is teaching. The main is whoever is teaching, we all are just passing the message of our teachers and the Buddhas. It's the same message, it's the same teachings. Maybe we might have a slightly different way of passing it. We might have different personality, different characters, different way of presenting it. But basically it's the same. Basically it's the same. You know, we're not making up our own. You know, we all rely on commentaries by the earlier great masters, practitioners, and the Buddhas. And so therefore, so I think continue to study, I think it's helpful just to have the imprint in our mind. Even we don't understand everything, imprint is very helpful. You know, with the imprint, you don't understand now, you hear many times, and slowly, it started to click after some time, started to have understanding something what you have not understood before. And so I think because, you know, even again, you can study by yourself, by reading and watching nowadays in YouTube, all of that. But still, I think basically when you are able to actually participate in like that, you know, because there's a kind of direct interactions in a way. Yeah. And so yeah, that is what I will encourage all of you to continue to study, no matter who's teaching. You know, of course, some days we are busy, some days we are not feeling well, all of that. But otherwise, you know, and even subject that we have known is always good to remind. Always good to remind. When you listen, when you hear it, it reminds you. You know, His Holiness Dalai Lama, he says he still study every day. You know, he's the I mean, the most enlightened beings. And in terms of age, you know, still he studies and still he study every day, you know. And even my teachers, you know, who is now 87, 88, still, you know, every day he's continue to study, you know. And he's the, you know, Gelu lineage holder, you know, Gandha Chiba, but they never stop studying, you know. And so those are a good example for us, you know. Until we achieve enlightenment, there's no end to the study. Once you achieve enlightenment, fully enlightenment, then you don't have to study because you are omniscient. Because you are all-knowing, you are omniscient, you don't have to study. Until then, even the great Bodhisattvas, they continue to study. Arhat continue to study. So therefore, definitely we need to, yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, so that would be my advice, you know, continue to study and then continue to practice whatever you learn from the, you know, class, trying to apply as much as possible in our everyday life, you know. Even we cannot apply everything, but there are certain things that we find helpful, and that you find helpful. So then those we find helpful, beneficial, you try to apply in our everyday life. And so even we might not have a transformation immediately, but with the time, after years, if not after months, after years, then we might begin to see some small changes, small positive changes, transformations. And so that's what we aim for. That is what we want to see. Okay. Okay, so we do the dedications.
Okay.
Due to the merits of this virtuous action, may I quickly attain the state of Guru Buddha and lead all living beings without exception into that enlightened state. May the supreme jewel Bodhisattva that is not arising, arise and grow. And may that which has arisen not diminish, but increase more and more. Jigden kamde pende malu pa kangle chungwe sambe yeshi no kadin chungme tenzin jaso la sowa deso tuje lundu sho. Tuzu changshin changgen jawe tenzin jong pewe kunso toporo ze chosong kuwe le mo tutu. So do je kun do shakte sho. Lava nu cho sa de do wa la yawa kun le la pe tin je la yang sam xin cho de ri ru su chen la ka tin ten pe ke sha so. Thank you very much, everyone. Take care.
Thank you, Geshe-la.
Thank you, Geshe-la.
Please
Thank you, Geshe-la. Safe travels.
Thank you.
Stay well.
stay well.
Stay
and
well,
safe.
Geshe-la.
Safe.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. You all also
Thank you.
Yes,
stay well. Thank you.
safe
All
journey.
right.
Thank you.